G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/EntitledParents video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody entitled parents. Now our first post today is by user Amasaday, titled, "Entitled Mother Tries to Get Me to Give My Easter Basket to Her Kids." I live in an apartment complex with my boyfriend. I work overnights, so I'm usually asleep during most of the day. Yesterday, my boyfriend went out and bought me stuff to make up an Easter basket for me. Something we did for each other last year, but hadn't really talked about doing this year because of the pandemic. He set the basket up and left it with the passenger seat out of my car for me to find when I went to work. This morning, I got home around 7:30. And as I was walking through the parking lots, a couple of the neighbors' kids were playing outside. I'm pretty sure they're brothers, as I always see them together, and I passed them to go upstairs while carrying my basket. The basket itself is a pink wicker basket. It had a small pink stuffed bunny, a giant lollipop set, a chocolate bunny, and plenty of colored eggs in it. I had just taken a melatonin and put my sleep mask on to try to go to bed, when I hear a knock at my door. My boyfriend is fast asleep, so I figured I might as well look through the peephole to see if it was an Amazon delivery or something. I peek through and see my neighbors from over the stairs, so I open it up. The two boys from earlier were by her door watching our conversation. Entitled Mother says, "My boys said you had an Easter basket?" Yeah. Okay, so give it to them." "I'm sorry?" "Give them the Easter basket. You're an adult, why do you even have one?" "I'm not gonna give your boys my Easter basket." "Well, why not? Do you hate Jesus or something?" I stood there for a second with a confused look on my face before she snapped, "Give them the basket already." I say, "Look, I've lived here almost a year. I see your kids all the time and I've never really interacted with them, but they seem like fine kids. Even if that is true though, I don't have to give them anything, especially not something that was given to me as a gift. If they want Easter baskets and you want them to have Easter baskets, why don't you buy the supplies and make them up yourself? Why should I have to do that when there's one already made up here? Champ, because it isn't yours? Well, I'm sure it'll get much better use if my boys have it rather than you. Hand it over, or I'm going to call the police and tell them some girl from apartment number stole their basket. You might think that it'll get more use from your boys than it will from me, but it's all sweets that I'm going to eat to keep me awake during my 12-hour shift tonight. The one that I'm going to sleep for if you would leave me be. Also, I even still have the basket I got from him last year, and I'll let you in on a secret. It holds all my sex toys. Happy Easter." After that, I closed the door in her face. I could hear her through the door give off one of those partial groan, partial screams, and she actually called the police on speaker right outside my door. So I called the non-emergency line and said if a woman called about someone from address stealing her kid's Easter basket, that she was delusional, and told them what happened. Police still haven't shown up now, and it's time for me to snooze. Happy Easter all. ETA, hey all, I pretty much passed out after posting this and replying to one comment, but let me add a few things. I know my boyfriend shouldn't have gone to get Easter baskets during the pandemic. I've told him multiple times not to leave except for work and groceries. Both of us are essential employees. But no matter how many times I get onto him, he keeps going to the store for non-essentials. I have gotten onto him multiple times and he just doesn't listen to me. I did thank him for the basket and the thought behind it, but then got onto him for going out for it. Many of you are saying this isn't real, mostly because of the sex toys comment. After she said the "Do you hate Jesus" comment, my brain was running through all the things that I could say to get her to leave and let me be, and my sex toys being in the basket from last year actually popped into my head. But I didn't feel like it would really say, "Oh yeah, I hate Jesus." So once she said that her boys would use it more than me, I was like, "Oh, thanks brain," and I said it. It's possible the police did show up after I fell asleep, but if so, I have no recollection of it. Melatonin knocks me out, and it's hard to wake me up even without it. So if anyone would have answered the door, it would have been my boyfriend, who also used to be a police officer. Though I don't think they did show up, because we got a notice saying that during the pandemic, the police would not be showing up on calls for things like petty theft. And it even had assault on the list, which blew my mind. To those of you saying I should have slammed the door in her face right after she asked, You're right. I wish I had, so I wouldn't have had to deal with such stupidity when I was so tired already. To those of you saying I shouldn't have opened the door regardless because of the pandemic, you are also right. The only reason I opened the door was because I recognized her as my neighbor, and I know she's a single mother with 3 kids in her home, and to my knowledge, she isn't working at the moment. So I thought she was just coming to ask for something like milk or a couple of eggs or something, which I probably would have given her if that were the case. To those of you saying to report her to my apartment management, my boyfriend has been living in this complex for over 5 years, and is very close with management. So if anyone would report anything he or I did, management would call him and ask, "Hey, what happened with so-and-so?" But we've reported our upstairs neighbor for things, and nothing has been done about it. Those of you saying it's just to report it for a paper trail, I've lived in the apartment almost a year, and haven't had an issue with family until today. So I don't think much more will happen with her, or at least I hope not. Her boys are in middle school, which starts at around 7 or something in the morning here, so they're used to being awake as early as 7:30. It's possible they haven't stopped their school alarms and are still waking up early in the morning, and before the pandemic, I'd seen them playing in the parking lot as I got home from work multiple mornings. Nobody usually bothers them when they play, and when they see a car coming through the lot, they grab whatever they're playing with and move to the side for the car to get through. The boys seem to be very respectful, as every time I've been outside to clean out my car or just walk through the lot to get my mail, they step aside and stop playing so they don't hit anyone with their ball. Usually a football or basketball, some occasions a soccer ball. Now I'm at work, so I probably won't be interacting with this post much more tonight. I hope you all enjoy your Easter, to those who celebrate. And to those who don't, I hope you have a wonderful day. If you still doubt this story, go ahead. I don't care. Just remember that you weren't there. Alrighty-o, and our next post is by WTFDNDDM, titled, "Entitled Mother Demands My Pokemon Cards That I Stole From Her Brat." So I have a binder that has the first 2 Pokedex Pokemon in order and with a lot of rare cards in the back, plus a lot of different Mewtwo cards as he's my favorite. My collection is my pride and joy. I would die protecting it. That's a joke. There's a pretty chill comic book and card store by my house, and when I go I bring my binder with me so I can see what cards I have so I don't get duplicates, and because the owner likes to see what new ones I have. One day, as I'm at the counter showing them to the guy in charge, chatting about what I want to buy, a kid about 10 comes over and watches intently, staring at the binder. He asked if I would trade a pretty rare card I was putting into it, and I tell him, "Nah, I'm good." He whines and asked again, and I tell him, "Nah." Guy looks pretty annoyed at the whining kid, but the kid soon leaves, only to come back with a woman who is glaring and demanding I return the cards I stole from her child. I ask her what she's talking about, and she demands to see my binder. I ask her if she's kidding, and she snapped that I need those cards. "You stole from entitled kid, and I'm tired of people like you stealing from children." I wanted to facepalm, and thankfully the guy in charge tells her to beat it. Well, she tried to grab the binder, and I quickly gave it to the guy behind the counter, and told her that if she needs the cards so much, how about she buys some like the rest of us peasants? No idea what went through her head, but she threatened to call the police as she left, and I simply waited around and bought more cards. Kinda disappointed that no coppers came. Sad face. Alright, and our next post is by Leos1023. This is an update number 2 to be roommates with my son and give him your games and food. Hey people of Reddit, my cousins gave me a second update about a couple days ago, about entitled mother and kid that has been harassing them this semester. Now they told me that this happened 3 days after the New York trip, so this was before quarantine. So, my cousins told me that they do first-year student elections during January to February. Entitled kid threw a tantrum when he lost the election for class president, and his entitled mum howled at my cousin. Time to meet everybody. OC older cousin, LC little cousin, RM roommate, EM entitled mum, EK entitled kid, EKRM entitled kid's roommate, Vice, student body vice president, NK nice kid, EKND, entitled kid's nice dad, D is the dean. So, the setting. My cousin and his roommate were having a council meeting discussing the first year elections. Now, I was told that the meeting are for the student council members and prospects only. Because Nice Kid was going to be a candidate for the president, so he was allowed in, his dad is a janitor, and he works as a campus job, so he doesn't live on campus. The door opens, cue entitled kid. Hi everyone! My cousin didn't want to deal with his BS and told him to leave. He asked why he couldn't stay, and he stated that the meeting was for student officers and prospects only. Then entitled kid asked, "What's a prospect?" A prospect is someone who plans to run for office. They are then included in the meeting because they are an associate member. Then entitled kid asked why Nice Kid was allowed in. Then older cousin stated, "Nice Kid is a prospect. That's why." Entitled kid then said, "I'm going to be a prospect." Now, my cousin knew that if you're on disciplinary probation like he was, it's impossible for someone to get an appeal. The last time an appeal was successful was 1996, and the last time someone tried was 2009. With that in mind, older cousin laughed in his head and wished him luck, knowing that it would never get approved. Then his mum called the student council office to try to get the information about an appeal. Now my cousin said the peer council is in charge of appeals. It is comprised of 12 student officers, 3 10th years, 3 11th years, and 3 12th years. The student body vice president's vote counts twice. Now his mum was there in the parking lot during the day of the vote. The vote was 6 out of 5, so entitled kid's appeal was approved. Older cousin had this "why" look on his face, and he saw entitled mum was in the parking lot, and her boy came through and hugged her. She then said, "I told you that mummy would take care of it." She then saw older cousin walked up to him and said, "My son got his appeal approved. You have to share that room and be his friend." Entitled kid's like, "Yeah." Older cousin sat there blank for a moment as he realized that he now has to spend time with entitled kid because he is a prospect. Then entitled mum says, "Excuse me, didn't you hear what I said? You're going to spend time with my son now." Older cousin then leans towards the mum and told the mum in an eerie way, "Let it begin." But, in truth, older cousin was scared crapless. He realized that if Nice Kid lost, he would be stuck with entitled kid for the rest of the year. The election was on February 25th, so he had 4 days to get a game plan. He asked Nice Kid and the rest of the gang to meet at the room to figure out what to do. It went like this. "Okay guys, we need to figure something out. If entitled kid wins, we're going to be stuck with him for the rest of the year. I have a good feeling I can win. That's not the point. Yeah, I can imagine that his mum is going to bribe other students to try to get them to vote for her son. We don't have a lot of money, that's the point. So we have very limited cash resources to make you look good. Oh, I see." Then entitled kid's roommate calls his dad and told him what was going on. He stated that his roommate could be class president if he doesn't help them. Entitled kid's roommate's dad agreed to help. So getting Nice Kid exposure was the only thing that was left. The gang worked tirelessly to promote Nice Kid's campaign, even had a town hall with free pizza. Older cousin said that entitled kid really wasn't campaigning. Older cousin was thinking that maybe he just thought that he was going to win, so he didn't put in any effort. The eve of the election, older cousin had a meeting with the prospects in his room and told them that their parents had been called and that there will be an announcement when the results are in. Older cousin then proceeded to talk to Nice Kid and entitled kid about student government. Nice Kid was being cool, but entitled kid was demanding to eat sweets and play games. It went like this. "Come on, let me have a honey bun and turn the PS4 on." That's not what this meeting is about. It's to prepare you for what is going to happen tomorrow. OMG, turn it on now. He said no. F you, mother. I'm gonna be your roommate when I become president. You're gonna have to share eventually, so stop holding out. Everybody just sighs loudly to where it's obvious. Then entitled kid says, "What?" It was time to end things, so older cousin dismissed entitled kid and Nice Kid. Nice Kid left at that time entitled kid's roommate was coming to sleep over. Entitled kid's roommate's like, "Hey, we are still on for tonight, right, little cousin?" "Yeah, I'll put out the couch." Then entitled kid asks, "Can I sleep over too?" "No." Entitled kid pouts, he's like, "Why not?" "Because you don't live here and aren't our guest." "Well, I'm gonna stay anyway." Entitled kid then proceeds to sit on the couch. The gang ask him to move, but he doesn't. The gang isn't having it, especially Little Cousin. Little Cousin stands over him and Entitled Kid says, "Bruh, what the F you want? Keep in mind, my cousins are black, he's white. We can either do this the easy way or we can do it my way. Shut up, you ain't gonna do nothing." The gang then drags him out and he banged on the door for an hour, begging to be let back in. Fast forward to tomorrow. The parents, students and faculty are all there. Vice was getting ready to read the results. The Vice says, "Everybody, thank you for coming. This is a time where we greet the new class officers, our first year students. Everyone please be quiet, we will be starting at this time." Vice then proceeds to say the candidate and how many votes they received. For Entitled Kid, 85 votes. Because student elections aren't that important to first years, 85 was a lot of votes. Then parents started to chat. Entitled Mum and son were looking smug, looking like they had won. Older Cousin admitted to having this "oh crap" look. Then Vice banged his gavel and said, "Order!" Vice says, "For Nice Kid, 764 votes. Nice Kid wins." Little Cousin and Entitled Kid's roommates turned to Entitled Mum and son and pointed in their face and said, "Booyah!" Nice Kid's parents were there and congratulated him, and so did the rest of the gang. Entitled Mum and son were pissed, but my cousin said that Entitled Kid's dad was just there, and he was really polite. Entitled Mum and son pulled her husband away from the crowd, and she demands he do something. Entitled Mum says, "You pay this school a lot of tuition. Our boy has to be president." Well, over 700 people decided that they didn't want Entitled Kid to be president. I can't do anything. Entitled Kid having a tantrum. "I'm supposed to be president." "Now look what you did. You made him cry. Come on, Mummy will buy you an ice cream." She then turned to Older Cousin. "You jerk. You plotted against my son, didn't you?" "Well, I didn't help him." "You owe my son. You didn't take him on the trip with you, and you've been bullying him all semester. If you don't want to be his friend, you're gonna get an earful from my husband." "Yeah, you effing jerk. Language." The Entitled Kid then flips the bird to Older Cousin and leaves with his mum. Older Cousin then had to talk with the dad, and found out that he sent him to the school hoping that it would break his son's entitlement. Older Cousin tells the dad what has been going on this semester. Everything. The dad looked shocked. He begins to apologize profusely for his wife and son's behavior. He stated that he thought he was improving and making friends. Older Cousin had to dispel that and said that Entitled Kid is being a grade A jerk and was being very rude and disruptive to the gang. He gave Older Cousin his number and said if Entitled Kid bothers them, just call him and put him on speaker. Nice Kid ended up choosing Entitled Kid's roommate as his vice president. As the days went by, needless to say, Entitled Kid became even worse than when Entitled Kid's roommate was in student government. He said, "You stole the election from me. You have to pay for this." Entitled Kid kept getting worse. Entitled Kid's roommate made a desperate plea and begged the dean to switch his roommate, and the dean said, "I'm really sorry, but I have to, there is nothing left. I've asked other kids if they'll switch and nobody wants to. Can you do something?" "Well, there is one thing." "What is it?" "Well, theoretically, student officers are allowed to live together." "I'm not following you. If you can convince the guys to let you move in with them, I'll allow it." Entitled Kid's roommate later asked the guys if he could move in. My cousins and roommate said he is more than welcome to live in the room with them, so they proceeded to go and get his things, and it went down like this. "Okay, just put all your things in the bed and we'll get it." "Alrighty." Entitled Kid then says, what are you doing?" "I'm moving in with the guys." "What?" "Yeah." "Cool, then I'm coming too." The gang gives a very sarcastic, "Oh yeah, sure you can," and proceed to move Entitled Kid's roommates in. The roommate says in a really smug and sarcastic way, "Oh wait, you can't move in with us, remember? You lost." Entitled Kid throws a tantrum in the hallway, and everyone sees. The gang gets the rest of his roommate's things and finished moving him in. Entitled Kid's roommate has had the best sleep in weeks. Entitled Kid does still wait by my cousin's door and begs for his roommate to move back in and gives a half-assed apology. The gang promptly ignores him and says, "This pizza's so good, man, it's all ours. Wow, look at these graphics, this is such a cool game." Entitled Kids begs to be let in, and the gang never does. They have woken up to him sleeping at the front of their door prior to the quarantine on more than one occasion. I know I was long, so thanks for reading. My cousins have said that he hasn't been around much due to the quarantine, due to mandates by the dean, so it's unlikely that I'll have another story to post, but if so, I'll keep you in the loop. What a truly epic story. And our next post is by user The Death A of Us, titled, Entitled Mum tries to steal my sweets for her entitled kid, then tried to claim I wanted to poison him. Hello all, hope you are doing well during these unknown and uncertain times. I hope you are all finding the best out of the current situation. So here's my story of what happened to me a few months ago. This was before everything sparked up and went into pandemonium. I love wrestling, and whenever there is a wrestling event on, I'll try to buy something for the night, like sweets, because wrestling events are on really late in the place where I live, which is England. So, I walked down to my local Wilko on a Monday, a British shop which sells all types of things ranging from calculators to wallpapers, but most importantly for me, sweets. My favourite type of sweets are called pick and mix. You get a cup and fill it with different types of sweets in different pots. You can pick which sweets you want basically. Quite cool, and I'm sure most British people in the subreddit will know what I'm talking about. So I picked up my cup and left the store and waited at the traffic lights to walk home. It's not a long distance, so walking is best for me. But as I'm at the lights, waiting for them to turn for me to walk, I see an entitled mother and her son next to me, and this is what I hear. "Mummy, could I have some sweeties?" He says this while looking at my cup. "Okay, sweetie, Mummy will just talk to the boy real quick." She then turned to me. "Could my child have one of your sweets?" "No, your child should never take candy from a stranger, no matter what. What if he has allergies to the sweet?" "I'm sure he won't, so just hand it over." "Why should I? I spent my money on this and I don't want to be liable for your child if he has a reaction to it. For all you know, I could have poisoned them." By this point, the lights have already passed and gone back to red. I should have left, looking back on it now while the light was green. The entitled mother then proceeded to try to take the cup out of my hands. I prevented her and pulled back, making the entitled mother stumble backwards and almost fall to the floor. I am not small by any means, but not big either, so I was actually quite shocked about it. She then tried for a second time, and yet again I prevented her. But this time she actually fell to the floor while her son looked on in disbelief. What happened next was kind of a blur, but I will try to recount it in the best way possible. What I heard next was the entitled mother scream. "This pervert is trying to take advantage of my child and poison him. Somebody call the police." I looked at her shocked, and her child started screaming alongside her. By this point there was quite a scene being made, and people almost felt like they closed in on me. This is where it becomes a blur. I think it was a man who asked me, "Sir, is this true?" No, obviously not. She tried to steal my sweets for her child. He's lying. He said he might have poisoned the sweets and that he wanted to take advantage of him. I then saw the man pull out his phone and call 999. But just then, everything became clear. There was a man in a bandana who I will call my guy for this story. My guy says, "Ma'am, I was on the other side of the street and saw the whole thing. The kid was just using self-defense because you tried to rob him of his sweets. He didn't want to do anything to you or your child." Entitled mother then turned to the guy on the phone. "That's not true. Tell the police my side of the story." Guy on the phone to the police. "Hello, I want to report an incident down in my town name." The entitled mother gives me a crap-eating grin and I was horrified. But just then, Guy, still on the phone, "Yes, this mother just tried to rob this child of some sweets that he bought." Entitled mother went white. She ran away with her child, who through all of this was still throwing a tantrum. The guy on the phone then turned back to me with a huge grin on his face. He then showed me his phone. It was never on, and it turns out he never actually called the police, and just pretended to. This made the mother run away and leave me be. God damn, that guy was a good actor. I thanked both of them, my guy especially, and then I walked home with a sense of victory. And let me tell you, those pick and mix sweets tasted 10 times sweeter that day. Alright, and our next post is by user Nithes124. Entitled parents tried to get me arrested at Walmart for being a bad employee. So I was at Walmart about 2 days ago because I was getting something for my dad. He's at high risk group for this coronavirus going around. but I had just gotten new Power Beats as a present from my girlfriend because I had been looking at them for some time. I was heading down an aisle because I needed to get some deodorant. I don't want to smell like garbage during this whole lockdown thing. While I was walking down the aisle, I saw that some bottles of shampoo had been knocked over, and I decided to put them back so that way the employees could do more important stuff. Cue entitled mother. I was listening to my music while I was putting stuff back, so I didn't hear her call, or let alone notice her, up until she decided to yank my earbud out, which hurt a lot. I'm like, ow, hey, what's your deal, woman? Maybe you shouldn't have your headphones on while you're working a job where you have to interact with people. Sorry, but I don't work here. But you're stacking shampoo bottles, so that you must work here. No, I'm just trying to help out. Please leave me alone. I wasn't in a very good mood at the time, so I put my earbud back in my ear, and she proceeded to yank it out again. For being so ignorant, you have to help me with my groceries. I tell her no, use some colourful language that I don't want to repeat, and I walk away to grab the rest of the things that I needed. While I'm at the register scanning my items, I get a tap on the shoulder from a police officer. There's a police station just down the street from this Walmart, so they got there pretty quick. Young man, did you assault this woman? So I tell him the whole ordeal, and in true entitled mother fashion, says I was lying to get out of trouble. Her son, who looked about 16, showed up and told the cop to look at the cameras to see what happened. We all went and did just that. The officer apologized, her son told her that he was going to move and live with his dad, and the officer gave her a fine for making a non-urgent 911 call. So, no crazy ending I guess, but at least she was put in her place. Thank you for reading, hope you all have a wonderful Easter, and please make sure that you and your relatives stay safe during this pandemic. Alrighty-o, now we're on to our next post by Mitch Ra Group, titled, Aunt Demands That My Mum Pays for Her Family Portrait. So this happened quite a while ago at a party for something. Backstory, EA, entitled Aunt, is the younger sister of my dad, and just like the rest of my dad's side, an entitled piece of crap. She's the youngest out of 3 siblings, and has been spoiled since birth as the only girl. In this, she was pregnant with her second child. This will be relevant later. I was 8 at the time, so while I was there for part of the story, most of this is a retelling of what my dad told me. So, entitled auntie comes to our house along with her husband and entitled kid. Me and the other kids stayed in the living room watching TV and playing with toys. The parents, on the other hand, were chatting in the kitchen. Soon everyone was called for dinner. The parents started bragging about how amazing the kids were, and my mum, wanting to fit in, told them about how well behaved we were during the family photo that we took. After dinner, the parents followed my mum to the fireplace where the picture was. Their conversation then moved to talking about their own family photos until entitled auntie's screaming broke the silence. I want a family photo too. Dad's like, okay, where did you get this photo? My co-worker does photography on the side. I could ask him, give me his number. Okay. So EA, M, and D head to the kitchen. M gets her phone and tells EA the phone number of her co-worker. D's like, you forgot the price. Entitled auntie, the price is X amount. Price? For the photo? Why are you telling me? You're paying. Dad starts chuckling. Mum's like, what do you mean we're paying? You have to pay for the photo. Dad, through his laughter, is like, we're not paying for that crap. You have to. You can't put a family photo up and not pay for everyone else to have a picture. That's rude. Dad then laughs louder, causing everyone to come to the kitchen. Entitled auntie starts screaming at my mum about how she wants a photo too. Entitled auntie's husband tells her to stop. Entitled auntie continues to yell. Dad finally stops laughing and wipes the tears from his eyes. Entitled auntie, first, we're not paying for anything. Second, get the hell out of my house. Entitled auntie then collects her kids and leaves. Though I'm not sure if this was true, my dad said on her way out that my brother told her, bye-bye, rude fat lady. And I said, she's not fat, just rude. The party was ruined after that, and everyone left after some dessert. Dad got a call from multiple members of the family, telling him to just pay for entitled auntie's family photo. Dad always replied with the same thing, I'm not paying for her entitlement. He then laughed when they started yelling and hung up. My dad is marvelous. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed those stories today. Tell me what you thought about this r/entitled_parents shenanigans posting long ass stories that we got. I enjoyed that update number 2, even though it's hard to read that sometimes. I'm glad that you guys got through to the end here with me. I want to know what you guys are up to today. Tell me anything and all, what's on your mind. Are you liking the community posts, the memes I'm putting up, anything at all? I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!